Good morning, Alex and friends. I'm Grace. Today is Saturday, September 13th, 2025, and you're listening to Alex's News. The weather in Riverside today will see a high of 83.3 degrees Fahrenheit and a low of 63.7 degrees. It's a mild day for mid-September, so enjoy the pleasant temperatures. Coming up, we'll dive into President Trump's decision to deploy the National Guard to Memphis, exploring why this move is happening even as crime rates in the city are reportedly on the decline. We'll also examine California's new approach to urban planning, which allows for increased housing development near public transit. We'll discuss what this policy aims to achieve and its potential effects on communities and commuters alike. All this and more coming up on Alex's News. Stay tuned. We begin this morning with breaking news out of Memphis, Tennessee, where President Donald Trump announced yesterday his intention to deploy the National Guard. This move has certainly raised some eyebrows, given the current climate in the city. For all the details, we turn to our national correspondent, Ethan. Ethan, walk us through what President Trump said.
Grace, it appears President Trump is once again taking a firm stance on crime. Speaking on Fox News program Fox and Friends, he characterized Memphis as deeply troubled and asserted his plan to, quote, fix that just like we did Washington, referencing a previous National Guard deployment to the nation's capital. According to reporting by Time.com, he even indicated a willingness to send anybody else we need, and even the military if necessary.
That's quite a strong declaration. Did he provide any specific justification for this deployment, beyond just saying Memphis is deeply troubled?
He did, Grace. President Trump justified the deployment by claiming that both the Memphis mayor and Tennessee's governor were happy about the move. This is according to the Star Tribune. He stated his decision was influenced by a conversation with Union Pacific CEO Jim Vena, who urged him to address crime in the city. Vena, incidentally, also previously served on the FedEx board, which is headquartered in Memphis, as the Philadelphia Inquirer uncovered. The Trump administration specifically cited crime statistics from 2024 to support its decision, including a USA Today analysis that identified Memphis as having the highest rates of murder and violent crime among major U.S. cities that year. Fox News and The Washington Post also reported similar findings. Other reports from 2024 claimed Memphis had the highest violent and property crime rates, and the third highest murder rate in the U.S., with its total crime rate reportedly 344% higher than the national average, according to the Economic Times.
Those 2024 numbers certainly paint a grim picture, Ethan. But what about current crime trends? Has anything changed since then?
That's where this story takes a sharp turn, Grace. Despite the statistics from 2024, local authorities in Memphis have reported starkly contrasting and more recent crime data for 2025. According to localmemphis.com, police reported significant decreases across every major crime category in the first 8 months of 2025 compared to previous years. Overall crime has reached a 25-year low, and murder is at a 6-year low. Time.com further highlighted that robbery, burglary, and larceny have also hit 25-year lows. Preliminary data from the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation for the first half of 2025 indicated a 17.4% drop in major violent crime. So while Trump's justification may be rooted in past figures, the current picture is quite different.
It sounds like the city's crime statistics might have been caught off guard by the president's announcement. How have local and state officials reacted to this proposed deployment, especially with those conflicting crime numbers?
Reactions have been sharply divided, Grace. Tennessee's Republican Governor Bill Lee has embraced the deployment, expressing gratitude for the president's unwavering support and confirming constant communication to develop a plan, as reported by military.com. He even noted successful operations with the FBI, state, and local law enforcement that led to, quote, hundreds of arrests. However, Memphis, Democratic Mayor Paul Young explicitly refuted Trump's claim that he was happy about the deployment. According to the Star Tribune, Mayor Young stated, quote, "I did not ask for the National Guard, and I don't think it's the way to drive down crime," unquote. He acknowledged the city's challenges, but emphasized the need for federal help focused on addressing the, quote, "root source of violent crime," such as rehabilitation, mental health services, jobs, and housing.
So, a clear disagreement between the state and city leadership. Has the president deployed the National Guard in similar situations recently?
Indeed, Grace. This deployment to Memphis marks the third Democratic-run city where President Trump has used the National Guard in recent months, following Los Angeles and Washington, D.C., as Time.com highlighted. He previously sent federalized National Guard troops to Los Angeles in early June over the Democratic governor's objections. He has also openly mused about sending troops to other Democratic-led cities like New Orleans, Chicago, and Portland, Oregon.
This certainly raises questions about the legal authority for such a deployment, especially without local consent and in the face of contradictory crime data. What's the legal framework here?
It's a complex legal landscape, Grace. The primary legal framework that could allow a president to deploy the National Guard domestically without a state's request is the Insurrection Act. This act, specifically 10 U.S.C. sections 251 through 255, serves as the main statutory exception to the Posse Comitatus Act, which generally prohibits the use of federal military forces for domestic civilian law enforcement, as the Brennan Center for Justice explains. Under sections 252 and 253 of the Insurrection Act, the president can deploy troops if there are unlawful obstructions, combinations, or rebellion that make it impracticable to enforce laws or to suppress domestic violence, even against the wishes of state or local officials.
That's fascinating. Has there been any recent legal precedent that might shed light on this situation?
There has, and it's quite relevant, Grace. Just 11 days ago, on September 2, 2025, U.S. District Court Judge Charles Breyer ruled that President Trump's deployment of National Guard troops to Los Angeles in June 2025 was illegal and violated the Posse Comitatus Act. The judge found there was no rebellion, and that civilian law enforcement was capable of responding, thus failing to meet the conditions for an Insurrection Act exception. This was reported by Time.com and the Los Angeles Times. However, it's worth noting that an appeals court subsequently allowed President Trump to maintain control of those National Guard troops in Los Angeles, halting the lower court's ruling and indicating it was likely Trump lawfully exercised his authority, citing, quote, "violent acts by protesters" as a, quote, "defensible rationale," according to the Philadelphia Sun. So the legal waters are certainly murky.
A truly intricate legal situation. Given Mayor Young's explicit opposition and the local police reports of a 25-year low in crime, what does this mean for the Memphis deployment?
Well, Grace, Mayor Young's explicit opposition and the recent low crime rates would make it extremely difficult for the president to legally justify this action under the stringent conditions of the Insurrection Act, as legal scholars at the Brennan Center have argued. Critics contend that general crime fighting, especially in a city with low crime rates, does not meet the high threshold required to override state and local authority and deploy federal troops. This move raises serious constitutional questions about federalism and the 10th Amendment, particularly when federalized National Guard troops are deployed without a governor's consent and against a mayor's objections, without a clear and compelling federal interest. This will almost certainly face immediate and aggressive legal challenges, with the Supreme Court potentially serving as the ultimate arbiter.
A truly complex and evolving situation, Ethan. Thank you for breaking it all down for us. We appreciate your insights.
My pleasure, Grace.
Our sources for this report include the Star Tribune, Military.com, the Philadelphia Inquirer, Time.com, FoxNews.com, WashingtonPost.com, EconomicTimes.com, LiveMint.com, APNews.com, LocalMemphis.com, CBC.ca, CouncilNCJ.org, NewsTimes.com, DemocracyDocket.com, BrennanCenter.org, JustSecurity.org, Governing.com, NileC.org, LawFareMedia.org, PBS.org, Wikipedia.org, Brookings.edu, LayTimes.com, TheGuardia.org. And that was story 1 of 2. Okay, for our second story this morning, we're turning our attention to California, where a significant legislative battle over housing and urban development has just concluded, but the final chapter is yet to be written. This bill aims to build a future for many Californians. Let's bring in our reporter Chloe for the full rundown. Chloe, what's the latest on this crucial legislation?
Grace, good morning. The California legislature just sent a landmark housing bill to Governor Gavin Newsom's desk yesterday, September 12th. It is Senate Bill 79, or SB 79, named the Abundant and Affordable Homes Near Transit Act. This measure tackles the state's severe housing affordability crisis.
The name sounds promising. What does SB 79 propose, and why is it so significant?
This bill is a game-changer, Grace, directly overriding local zoning laws. Authored by Senator Scott Wiener, a Democrat from San Francisco, SB 79 allows for dense housing near public transit hubs statewide. The goal is to dramatically increase housing supply in, quote, transit-rich, end quote, areas within a half-mile of qualifying stops, combating the shortage and reducing car dependency.
Overriding local zoning is a big deal. What kind of density and height are we talking about?
It's a significant increase. Buildings directly adjacent to heavy rail transit stops could reach 9 stories. Within a quarter mile, it is 7 stories, and within a half mile, 6 stories. Light rail and bus routes also see increased heights, from 5 to 8 stories. It's certainly a tall order.
So it's about reshaping urban landscapes. Are there requirements for affordable housing?
Absolutely. It mandates that every housing proposal using its provisions ensures between 7% and 13% of units are subsidized affordable homes. Higher local requirements take precedence. Projects must include at least 5 dwelling units.
What are the arguments for and against this bill?
It's a heated debate. Proponents, including powerful labor groups, argue SB 79 is necessary for California's housing shortage and affordability crisis. They believe increased density near transit is vital for moderating costs and reducing vehicle miles traveled for climate goals, as ABC News has uncovered. They contend state intervention is needed due to local governments' consistent failure to approve sufficient housing.
And the opposition?
Opposition is robust, primarily from local governments and community groups concerned about local control. The Los Angeles City Council notably voted against it, calling it a, quote, one-size-fits-all mandate, end quote, according to reporting from the Los Angeles Times. Opponents fear impact on single-family neighborhoods, gentrification, insufficient affordability, and strain on existing infrastructure.
Governor Newsom has a big decision. When do we expect him to act, and what factors will he weigh?
He has until September 30th to act, just 17 days from today. His decision balances his commitment to addressing the housing crisis and climate goals against deeply held concerns about local autonomy. Newsom has a history of supporting state-level solutions, signing similar bills in 2021. He'll also consider criticisms regarding affordability and potential displacement, voiced by Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass.
This isn't the only bill of its kind, is it? California is on a broader mission to rezone.
Exactly, Grace. SB 79 is part of a larger legislative push. We've seen other bills removing parking minimums and allowing more housing in single-family zones. These interventions highlight an ongoing tension between state and local control over land use.
How effective is this transit-oriented development typically?
Studies show it can be very effective, Grace. Residents in transit-oriented developments consistently exhibit higher rates of transit use and lower car dependency, reducing overall travel by 10% to 40%. Households near LA rail stations drive an average of 16 fewer miles per day, and California TOD residents are approximately 5 times more likely to commute by transit, as several reports have indicated.
That sounds like a clear win-win, but are California's transit systems ready for new residents relying on them?
That's the million-dollar question, Grace. While TOD is sound, its broader impact depends significantly on public transit quality. We've seen some ridership recovery post-COVID, with LA Metro and Caltrain showing growth. However, recovery is uneven, and safety concerns persist. Many systems suffer from uncoordinated schedules. So while SB 79 paves the way for homes, transit infrastructure still needs to catch up for a truly seamless journey.
It certainly sounds like a complex issue with many moving parts, and Governor Newsom has quite the decision ahead of him. Chloe, thank you for breaking down this significant bill and its potential impact. You've really given us the inside track on this one.
My pleasure, Grace.
Here are some other headlines. In Washington, it seems the government's health is on the line, with a potential shutdown looming at the end of the month. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is threatening to close up shop if Republicans don't agree to extend key Affordable Care Act subsidies and reverse Medicaid cuts. Democrats, now unified, believe the political tables have turned, arguing that polling shows voters would blame the GOP and President Trump for any closure. A government shutdown would halt paychecks for millions of federal employees, including military personnel, and could drain an estimated $3 billion from the U.S. economy. With the clock ticking down to the September 30th deadline, both sides appear entrenched, setting the stage for a tense fiscal showdown. And in a landmark decision out of Brazil, former President Jair Bolsonaro's political ambitions have been put behind bars. The far-right leader has been sentenced to 27 years in prison for attempting to stage a coup after his 2022 election loss. A Supreme Court panel found him guilty of leading a criminal organization to undermine democracy, making him the first former Brazilian president to be convicted of such a charge. 7 of his allies were also convicted. Bolsonaro, who is already barred from running for office until 2030, plans to appeal from house arrest, but legal experts say it's a long shot. The verdict drew criticism from his ally, former U.S. President Donald Trump, who called it a, quote, witch hunt. Overseas, the cost of war is adding up, and it seems Russia's central bank is losing interest in high rates. They've slashed their key interest rate down to 17%, a clear signal of the mounting strain on the nation's wartime economy. While massive military spending is fueling a soaring budget deficit, it's also creating a quote, speed economy, where civilian sectors are squeezed. This has led to labor shortages and persistent inflation, which is still more than double the central bank's target. Policymakers are now walking a delicate tightrope, trying to stimulate slowing growth without letting inflation spiral out of control. Back in the U.S., the Trump administration is injecting some controversy into the scientific community. The CDC is set to award a no-bid contract to Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute to research a potential link between vaccines and autism. This comes despite overwhelming scientific consensus and decades of studies showing no such link exists. The move, championed by Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., has sparked outrage from groups like the Infectious Diseases Society of America. They warn it lends credibility to a long-debunked theory and could lead to lower vaccination rates, calling it a significant threat to public health. And finally, a powerful coalition of U.S. Catholic bishops and nuns is issuing a sharp rebuke of the Trump administration's immigration policies. During a panel at Georgetown University, they said the ramped-up enforcement is tearing families apart and sowing deep fear. The Los Angeles Archbishop reported mass attendance has dropped by as much as 30% in some parishes, as immigrants are really afraid of going out of their homes. The leaders criticized a policy allowing arrests in once safe havens like churches, stating the government's actions have profoundly disrupted the life of their communities and the church itself. That's all we have for now. Today's episode was made by Alexander King with Claude Sonnet 4.0, Gemini Pro 2.5, Gemini Flash 2.5, and Google Cloud Text-to-Speech. I hope you have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow, Alex.